Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Your Mentoring Minute. My name is Ruby Simmons, and I am your medical billing mentor and owner of Blossom Revenue Cycle Solutions, LLC. I hope you guys can see me. It seems a little dark right here. Okay, there it goes. It lightened up a little bit. So today, in our Mentoring Minute, and you can still post whatever questions you have for me on the side in the comments, and I will answer them to the best of my knowledge. So on today's your I'm sorry, your mentoring minute, I want to talk about our medical billers, patient advocates too. Now I know that a lot of people would think that first some people would think what's a patient advocate? One, two, you would think that if you are advocating for patients, then you can't advocate for the doctor as well. And so I'm here to let you know that as a medical biller, you can actually be both. You can be an advocate for your provider, and you can also be an advocate for the patients that your provider sees. And how you do that is by understanding the rules, regulations, and guidelines of what you can do for providers and what you can't do for patients. Now, we know that there are laws out there that help patients when it comes to financial issues, and every organization, even private practices, have to have some type of help that they can offer or financial assistance that they have a policy on for their practice or organization. So, when with that in mind, as a medical biller, when you have a provider who needs to get paid and the charges are assigned to the patient and the patient is responsible for the bill now, what are the first things that you need to do as the medical biller or customer service rep? Because sometimes they make medical billers customer service reps, especially when it comes to dealing with the self pay. So what would you do? First, you would make sure that you understand why the services are being assigned to the patient. Why is this bill being assigned to the patient? And what the insurance is. So, once you find out what the insurance is, like if it's a Medicaid insurance, you know that if it's state Medicaid, a patient never gets a bill. So that has to be written off or assigned to your financial assistance department to see if maybe the patient can get some help with any other services that they have. But Medicaid, patient doesn't get the bill, never gets the bill. You have to send them for financial help in any kind of way that you can. That's one. Two, if they're like Blue Cross, Blue Shields, United Healthcare, and it's assigned to the deductible and the out of pocket, then the patient is responsible for that. Now, let's say your patient is responsible for this copay, but the patient is too indigent to pay it, but not indigent enough to be eligible for Medicaid. What do you do at that point? At this point, you have several different options that you can do as a medical biller. You can refer them to financial services. You can offer them a payment or a payment plan or discount. And all of these different things that you're suggesting to this patient is advocating for them. You're helping this patient to pay their bill, and you're also advocating for the provider to get their money. So that's how you can be a patient advocate and a provider advocate at the same time. So you have other situations too, where let's say The patient came in, had services rendered and everything, and an authorization was either not obtained, or authorization was obtained, but things kind of changed during the surgery, and maybe the diagnosis on the authorization changed, and so now the insurance decides they're not going to pay it. What do you do in this case? Now this large surgical bill is for the patient. You know, how do you advocate for the patient in this situation, and then also advocate for the provider to get payment? You know, you call the patient, you're like, you owe this surgery, your insurance decided they're not going to cover it. And unfortunately, things changed once the doctor started the surgery, and he had to do something that it wasn't authorized for him to do. And it kind of changed your diagnosis, or it changed the service that was performed, something like that. And so now the patient's responsible for this. How do you deal in that situation? Well, for me, in that situation, what I would do is, one, I will also refer this patient to financial services to see if they could get a discount, or if they can negotiate a payment, some type of payment plan for this patient. That's if we can't get it paid. Another thing that you can do is see if you have enough time to go back and appeal the authorization and get the authorization changed to cover the actual services and or diagnosis that was performed. And that would be the first place I would do. I would check to see how long can I backdate that authorization for, or request a new authorization. um, is the service emergent enough for the insurance to approve it? Uh, you would have to appeal and find out, and call and find out, and talk to either one of their nurses, or their authorization department. So that's a way that you can advocate for that patient. You can also have the patient get involved and write an appeal to their insurance. And in most of these cases, that's what you can do also if you can't get payment from the insurance, because the patient has the right to appeal for their services too. And you can inform the patient of that. Most people do not inform the patient of that, and most patients do not realize that when they sign up for their insurances, that they have the right to appeal services when the insurance applies it to their responsibility. Because sometimes insurances don't follow up on how much money has been applied to the patient's deductible. Sometimes it just doesn't get followed up on, and the patient has to write them and say, hey, I already met my deductible, here's my proof, here's my receipts, you need to fix your system, things like that. They have problems too. But in cases where there's authorization issues and either other issues where it's not being paid, let's say you get an insurance, you think you're in network, you see the patient, find out later that you're out of network because it's not the type of, it's the insurance that you participate with, but it's a different kind of plan that you don't usually take, and you didn't notice that on the card. So you saw the patient, and now they're denying you because you don't have a contract and you didn't get an authorization. So in this case, you would call the insurance, see if you can get a backdated off, and if that's not eligible, if you're not eligible to get that backdated off, you can always have the patient write in and ask if they can see you out of network, and if they can get an off, and see if they can negotiate a payment for you as a non-participating provider. Now, the thing with this is the payment might go to the patient, and then the patient will have to pay you. Uh, and the only problem with that is sometimes patients get their money in their pocket, and depending on how hard things are, you might not see their payment. So that's the issue with that. So when it comes to being a medical biller, You're not just advocating for payment to your provider. You advocate to help the patient pay their bills. So if you're working for a provider who's telling you to make patients who have Medicaid pay self pay, patients who are telling you that they're financially indigent and you have a financial service uh, plan or policy in place and you're not making them aware of that, as you've seen in the news, a lot of these hospitals are being fined and a lot of these hospitals are having to refund these patients. Now, you as a medical biller, what if they start charging medical billers with a crime because they should know better than to bill a Medicaid patient? They teach you that in medical billing school. When you get your certification, they teach you that. It's in the, any medical billing book that teaches you self pay or financial services. They tell you you're supposed to be able to help patients that are financially unable. You're supposed to offer them different options to help them pay. When I was a medical biller, and when I did, I keep doing that. I'm still a medical biller. So when I worked for Shock Trauma Associates, we had a lot of self pay. This was trauma. You had people who just got into car accidents, would get beat up, all kinds of different things would happen to them, and they didn't have insurance. So as the biller, I utilized different ways to assist these people in getting their services paid. I would refer them to free clinics to help them get services, because after your trauma services are done, uh, hospitals and physicians don't have to continue to care for you. And you might need something like your stitches pulled out or additional medication and things like that. They can refer you to free clinics or sliding scale clinics where you can get services. You can also apply for, let's say, the person got jumped in the alleyway, criminal assistance. And if you're a state that has it, you have the automobile insurance fund that you can bill for people who didn't have car insurance, but they got into a car accident. And there's other funding out there that you should know as a medical biller that will assist your patients and your provider in getting paid. And that's what it means to be a advocate, an advocate for the patient and your provider at the same time. So I know I gave you a lot of information, and I really hope that I gave you some value. And again, my name is Ruby Simmons. I'm your medical billing mentor and owner of Blossom Revenue Cycle Solutions, LLC. And you can reach out to me on LinkedIn at Ruby C. Simmons, IG at Blossom RCS LLC, and Facebook, Your Medical Billing Mentor group. You can join. And thank you very much, everybody, and have a great evening.